Hello. Today I wanted to focus on racism and the Black community in design, or the lack thereof. There's a wonderful project and community in London called Design Can, who address these issues head on, and I suggest you follow them on Instagram or on their website. My own bookshelf is full of, well, not exactly full, but I have some books I wanted to share with you that show the wonderful work of Black artists. Not so many Black designers, not so many Black architects, so I need to fix that. The first one is sort of the anti-example. This is something I've been tweeting about. And this is a book written about 10 years ago about the fellowship, spiritual / educational fellowship set up by Frank Lloyd Wright in the late 40s. And unfortunately, it's horrible. And he's a horrible man, and he's racist and abusive and manipulative. And of course, he exploits everyone around him to end up building wonderful pieces of architecture. But himself as a character is the perfect example of why we don't have a lot of diversity in these sectors, because we tend to champion people like that. And I recommend it for the sort of sheer horrors of what used to take place. His third wife, who he set up the fellowship with, and I'll be honest, I'm about halfway through, and it reads like a telenovela. She had a colleague who was looking for a site other than the Lloyd Wright's home, and his name was Jean Toomer. And he was very influential in the Harlem Renaissance, so I wanted to share a little bit of work that relates to that era. This is part of the exhibition at the Barbican a few months back called Into the Night, Cabarets and Clubs in Modern Art. There's a section on Harlem, the 1920s and the 40s. Really the history of Prohibition era clubs, nightclubs, jazz clubs, and some really beautiful context around how people developed an economy for themselves, for Black creativity in the time that was still and continues to be extremely dangerous. So this is a map of the formal and informal clubs that you could go to in an evening, including the Cotton Club, which was the biggest club there was, because Duke Ellington started broadcasting from the club. And there's also a great kind of mention of this very influential book written in 1925 called The New Negro. Jean Toomer actually was caught on his honeymoon reading The New Negro, and because he was of mixed ancestry, people didn't think he was Black, and then he got threatened with lynching and had to leave his honeymoon. And you know, this and other stories is the story of being a Black creative person in the 20s and 30s. A little bit further along, you get the wonderful work of Maya Angelou. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. This is one of 3 books that she's written about her life. I think as designers and professionals, we have to be able to also read people's experiences, even though the output of their work is not an object or a piece of furniture or a building. I think it still influences and informs our thinking. Same with James Baldwin, a fantastic writer and political writer. He lived a large part of his earlier life in France, decided to come back around 1963, around the Birmingham riots, and continued to work alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, and knew them all. His biography, and there's a documentary about him that was put out not too long ago. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Second to last is Jean-Michel Basquiat, Boom for Real, which those of you who know more about kind of pop art will recognize his work. His work did tend towards the political, even though we're talking about the late 70s, early 80s. This is when I was a child, essentially, and he died when I was very young. I was shocked to discover that he'd never had a solo exhibition in his whole life. He had shows with others, but not on his own. And now he has solo shows all the time, and his pieces are worth millions. So beautiful work, incredible graphic work. And the last artist I wanted to mention, this is part of a group show, again at the Barbican, called Everything Was Moving. This is Malik Sidibé's work in Mali, of documenting the people's informal nightclubs and nightclub attitude in the 60s. Just incredibly beautiful photography. People who were obviously just so crazy about music and really wanted to hang out. Just beautiful swagger and life and excitement in these very informal places. And I'll finish on this beautiful picture. I really love this, of powerful Black man in the place that he should be, which is in his own body, in his own world, alongside everyone else. So, thank you.